Who might have thought this test? Endure. Japan's thin lunar landing test awakens to new life and resumes its main goal. The frigid cold lunar evening couldn't hurt the Japanese Marvel vehicle, and presently, Thin will send us uncommon information. Thin is as of now considered an extraordinary mission, and the test could change the colonization of the moon. In January 2024, the Japanese lunar test Thin successfully landed on the surface of the moon. Thin represents Smart Lander for investigating moon for the first time. A lunar test landed, essentially independently, with an accuracy of 50 meters to the designated landing site. This was a staggering accomplishment by the Japanese space organization JAXA, and essentially, the mission was more than achieved. However, Thin goes further with their lunar ace. The Japanese indeed showed how ingenious their technical creativity is in space ventures. People around the world are familiar with Japan's love for innovation, contrivances, and advancements, yet in space, the country is still rather new, or even better, totally unnoticed. Japan successfully landed tests on an asteroid quite a while back, including a lander, a rover, and a companion vehicle which have been studying the asteroid since. These innovations are so smart that by studying asteroids and comets seriously, they could save the entire human race from a devastating impact by such objects in the future. With a mission to the moon, Japan wanted to finally earn the respect and recognition in space travel that the country has long deserved, and this time, it succeeded. Thin was the first test to date that was capable of landing on the moon so precisely and also exploring autonomously. Moon landings sometimes seem normal to us today. Many countries have now placed tests on the moon. However, what most people don't know is how difficult these landings are. Russia lost a test on landing, India lost its lander and rover on the first attempt, and the second attempt ended in failure on the moon. Only China has successfully landed a series of rovers, and now Japan has done so too. These two countries are mechanical trailblazers and extremely creative. Shudder rover. Thin was completely designed to carry out a designated landing near the lunar equator, which is now a technical masterpiece. The landing process was a success, but it was not without its challenges. During the last phase of the descent, as Thin drew closer to the lunar surface, an issue occurred with the motor. This issue led to a loss of height and speed control, which ultimately caused Thin to land sideways. Despite this, the rocket was so confident in its objective that the whole world was excited, so the minor failure didn't truly matter. However, Japan is aggressive. Rather than standing still, Thin landed on a slope with a tilt of about 17 degrees. This position had a few immediate consequences for the mission. First, the sideways landing affected the efficiency of the solar panels that were supposed to charge Thin's batteries because the panels were not optimally aligned. The test couldn't capture enough sunlight to fully charge its batteries. The shifted position also affected the alignment of the communication antenna, which limited Thin's ability to send and receive signals to Earth. Despite these challenges, the Japanese specialists managed to straighten out the test. This, too, is a miraculous achievement. The test was so precisely landed, then freed from its issue, and reactivated after hibernation, triumphs by the Japanese. Thin had to carefully manage its energy during this time to maintain communication with Earth, despite its limited power. The position was not favorable in relation to Earth, as the lunar horizon was essentially between the line of communication. This is another disadvantage of moon landings that many space enthusiasts don't know about. Communication with tests can be incredibly difficult. Thin could make irregular contact with Earth, and JAXA could handle the test at certain times to get it out of its issue. This unanticipated situation presented the engineers at the Japanese Space Agency with significant challenges. However, once again, Thin proved to be resilient and adaptable. So far, this totally new age of lunar tests has proven to be not just extraordinarily accurate and intelligent, but also strong and resilient. Despite the difficult landing conditions, Thin was able to continue its mission. Furthermore, the fact that the test is functional again, even after the lunar night, will take our entire lunar exploration to a new level. Thin is back, despite the cold lunar night. It survived, and there was great joy in India when 2 lunar tests finally landed in 2023, the Vikram lander and the Pragyan rover. This was the second attempt by the Indians to land tests on the moon. But something happened that no one had expected. After Vikram and Pragyan had successfully survived the lunar night, soon after, both fell on the moon. A day on the moon lasts 14 Earth days. The days can be hot and incredibly bright, while the nights are cold and dark. Oddly enough, India failed to equip its tests with heating pens, as they wanted to achieve the feat of landing near the tough polar terrain. The tests were exposed to the harsh conditions of the lunar night. To frigid temperatures, and what happened? They stuck to death. A huge number of dollars were lost since there was no warming. The Japanese idea ahead here, albeit thin, was initially as it were expected to achieve the accomplishment of accuracy. Handling a subsequent mission was arranged. Finn was to send essentially a hardly any photos from the Shoali cavity. Later the lunar night, Finn not just demonstrated that it was as yet alive, but in addition showed the world the magnificent pictures from the camera system. Subsequent to getting by temperatures as low as -173 degrees Celsius, the test took very detailed and high-resolution pictures of the lunar surface. The unique thing about this test was that it didn't have any unique warming frameworks or protection. The Japanese tackled the chilly issue in an alternate way. The delicate gadgets were shielded from freezing by placing the test into hibernation mode. In hibernation mode, practically all systems were turned off to save energy and keep the internal temperatures stable above -4 degrees Celsius. This was initially thought to be a dangerous methodology by specialists, and experts from NASA and other spacefaring countries questioned that the Japanese methodology would work. Anyway, yet again, Japan exhibited an uncommon, imaginative spirit and large progress in space travel. On February 25, 2024, Finn awakened and conveyed a message to the JAXA group. You can imagine how excited the Japanese space specialists were. Also, of course, the news quickly went all over the planet. JAXA confirmed that Finn had survived the lunar evening and its communication abilities had stayed in salvageable shape. This awakening marks a critical accomplishment in space innovation for all humanity, as we all benefit from the technical showpieces of the Japanese. We need to gain progress together in lunar exploration. The development of the moon as a settlement and financial region is inevitable. NASA will soon be landing people on the moon once more to live and work there as a part of the Artemis mission. SpaceX and Elon Musk will be engaged in the task, and JAXA's triumphs will also get it a place in the International Moon Project. The Japanese have already announced that they will contribute in life support systems to Artemis, and Japan has fostered several other smart lunar tests that will soon supplement Finn. One test looks a bit like a moving ball. It is intended to roll independently over the lunar surface and form into a flexible wanderer in appropriate spots. The ball can unfurl, extend legs, drill small penetrations, and take pictures, collect data, and then take tests. Once the mission is complete, the wanderer rolls up and rolls on. These staggering parts could be used all around the moon and make work easier for lunar pilgrims and researchers. So, Finn is only the start, and the fact that this test is practical once again after the extreme circumstances opens the door to new elements of lunar investigation. Now that Finn is active again, the first thing on the plan is to continue the scientific tests and data collection. The test will continue to explore the lunar surface, especially the topographically and meteorologically deeply intriguing Shoali district. The global success of the moon's brilliant lander for examining the moon was the fifth international task to make a soft landing on the moon after the USA, the former Soviet Union, China, and India. This is slowly changing the moon into a multicultural scene, conveying a serene message to Earth. On the moon and in space, countries are joining to form a community that moreover benefits what is happening on Earth. Russians and Americans are meeting up in space. Russia has joint tasks with the ESA, Japan, and India are going along with them, and even the Chinese are sharing their fantastic triumphs with the Chang'e missions with the world. For instance, Chang'e prevailed with regards to tracking down small glass beads containing water. These glass globules are dispersed basically everywhere in the lunar soil, and lunar pioneers only need to boil them to utilize the water they contain. Before this, scientists figured we would need to bore long and hard for lunar ice or carry water via pipelines from the lunar poles to the settlement regions made for the future. Every mission adds to future ventures on the moon, and the dynamic exchange of advancements and information strengthens the global human community. Finn's work in Shoalhae Pit will provide us with valuable information on lunar topography. Grasping the structure of the moon is fundamental if we want to use it as a settlement and maybe even as an economic region later on. The Chinese space travelers also tracked down a helium isotope on the moon that could fuel future fusion reactors. Atomic fusion would be the answer to the energy issue on Earth, and we could also work power plants on the moon that generate cheap, clean energy. This, in turn, could power life support systems, light greenhouses on the moon, launch space transports, and enable life to thrive on what is currently a maybe infertile moon. Finn is another significant piece of the dream to open up the moon as an environment. Click the subscribe button now and get considerably more exciting videos about space and the latest topics in space science and astronomy.